All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in a weird situation. In fact, this is one of the more unique situations a team has been in where they consistently make the playoffs, despite the fact that it feels like they consistently need to add talent to this roster to really take the next step. We talk about Mike Tomlin seemingly consistently gets these like 6-7 win caliber teams to get to over 500. The kind of issue with that, though, is you then don't get the draft picks that maybe the talent would typically equate to, which is just what puts them in a unique scenario. So how do they get better? The other side, though, is, well, if Mike Tomlin can get a 7-win team to the caliber team to the playoffs, well, what can he do with a playoff caliber team? That's the excitement. So, there's pros and cons to it all. But let's just get into it. Let's talk about first where they're at right now. If you look at their cash and cap space situation, never a great situation when you're negative cap space, but it's not that bad when you look at the rest of the Steelers' makeup. So again, $56 million in projected cash, but as I say, with all these, it could be higher. That's just a projection. Cash is usually the better indicator of how much teams actually have to spend than cap space. But again, yes, negative cap space, and $56 million in cash actually isn't that much in projected cash, but they have a ton of players they could get rid of if they want to. These are the players, and the number next to them is how many millions of dollars it would take to, or they would clear up by getting rid of them. The only exception is Levi Wallace at the top, which is why he's by himself. He's a free agent. They don't have a ton of key free agents like, Quan Alexander. There's a couple guys, but Levi Wallace is the main one, so he's the one we're going to talk about, he cost $6 million if they wanted to re-sign. But everyone else are players on their roster, but players they could get rid of if they want to. I'm not saying that they're going to want to get rid of all these guys. Some of these guys I think they certainly will not get rid of, but just these are the options. Like Deontay Johnson, I don't know if I'd get rid of him for $10 million, but again, it's something on the table. If Mike Evans wants to come to town and you're $10 million short, okay, well, maybe you make that move then, right? Larry Ogunjobi, I think clearing up $6 million would be good. Allen Robinson's gone. He's just gone. That's $10 million there. And again, then just some guys where it's like, do you get rid of these guys? Because if you do, you have to replace them, but it's still an option on the table. James Daniels, Patrick Peterson, Mason Cole, Cole Holcomb, Nate Herbig, and DeMonte Kazi, all they could clear up a good amount of space. So they actually have a lot of space they can clear up, even if they're in the negatives in cap space, which I find fascinating. Again, you look at the chart here. So the negative $6 million in cap space, $56 million in cash. It would cost $6 million to re-sign Wallace, the one notable free agent I put on there, and the money that could be freed is $57 million. So they actually could be one of the better equipped teams if they wanted to go out and sign some free agents. I'm not saying they're going to cut all those guys and clear up $57 million. Just that, usually when I make these videos, you have one or two guys that you can clear up some money from, really, and then there's a couple guys that maybe you can clear up a little bit. They could clear up a ton if they wanted to, and some of these guys I do think they'll get rid of. So the cap situation, while it looks terrible, is actually pretty good. However, cap space is not talent, right? At the end of the day, the goal is not to get the most cap space as possible, but to get a team that can win. And I think with this season, the issue, kind of thing about Mike Tomlin is we keep saying, man, it's crazy how he keeps being able to get these winning seasons despite the fact that he doesn't have great quarterbacks. Well, okay, that's cool. Maybe let's not force him to keep doing that. Maybe let's go out and, I don't know, can we get a quarterback who has a chance to win? Well, what are the quarterbacks that are available on the open market? Because again, the issue of making the playoffs, you don't have a draft pick that can, get a great quarterback. Maybe you like someone in day 2 or whatever. Maybe you like someone with that. You drafted Kenny Pickett with pick 20, but still, usually you're not getting a great quarterback. Case in point, Kenny Pickett. So if you do decide to go out and get a replacement, where do you go? Well, the key free agents on the board here, and the one I will mention before I get to the guys on the list, is Russell Wilson, who they've been potentially linked to. Again, rumors go crazy in the offseason. I don't really pay attention to rumors unless they're official, because, again, rumors are just rumors. We just don't know. But at the same time, sometimes rumors are true, and if the Russell Wilson thing does happen, if, the Broncos get rid of him, which I'm sure they will, and that's the move that the Steelers want to go, you can understand it. I didn't think Russ was that bad last year, and if he's in one of those situations where he's getting paid a bunch of money to not play for Denver, maybe he's kind of willing to, to play for a team like the Steelers for less money. I don't think that would be the worst way you can go if you are trying to improve and get better. I think that the guys on the list as well, like as I said, they actually could clear up the money for a Kirk Cousins or a Baker Mayfield. Like that, those are options on the table. Cousins actually, I think, is maybe a little interesting. I do think he's a good quarterback, and I think there is a fair debate to be had as to whether you want to actually go out and give Kirk Cousins a contract. Also, I should just mention the number next to their name, how many projected million they're expected to get in free agency. But I actually think 35 million is low. I think it would take more than 35 million to get Kirk Cousins. I think you're looking at in the 40s probably. For a guy like Cousins, the question is, can you win a Super Bowl with a guy like that? Usually you can get to the playoffs with a guy like that, but it's hard to go on a deep run. But again, there's the Mike Tomlin thing of like Mike Tomlin almost adds you an extra win or two a season, you feel like, due to his great coaching. That's what you assume because it's happened so many times. Well, maybe you can only get a, playoff or one-win caliber team with a Kirk Cousins type quarterback with his contract, but can you add it with Tomlin? I don't know. It's an option on the table. Again, Mayfield, another option on the table. Or do you go with maybe a cheaper option? Do you say, hey, we don't want to get rid of our entire roster just to get Kirk Cousins. Let's instead sign someone like Ryan Tannehill, Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, Jameis Winston, Tyrod Taylor are all interesting targets in my opinion. I used a chart in my Raiders video. That's actually what I made it for, but I figured the chart works well here. I believe I gave the Raiders Gardner Minshew, which I think makes sense, but if you're the Steelers, you could consider that as well, a Gardner Minshew type quarterback. Or the other option is you just say, we're going to ride with Mason Rudolph this season, don't have it go too well, and then hopefully you can rebuild and get a quarterback in the draft or something like that next season, because they are in kind of this no man's land area. So, and again, while quarterback isn't the only thing, man, it sure feels like it sometimes, right? I mean, quarterbacks really do matter a lot, and if you don't have a quarterback, there's only so many other things you can do. So for Pittsburgh, again, where do you go from here? How do you improve your roster? I do think, personally, what I think I do is I don't try to tank, because I don't think you can tank with Mike Tomlin. I just don't think it's possible. I don't think it's going to work. I actually don't hate the Kirk Cousins idea is kind of interesting to me. I also don't hate going after a Jacoby Brissett, who I think is really underrated. He was really good for the Browns before Watson came back from his suspension. And in fact, if Watson never came back from the suspension, I think Brissett probably, I think he takes the Browns to the playoffs that year because he was doing a pretty good job. That's the guy who's interesting to me. Again, Jameis Winston would be fun, although I think he would, Mike Tomlin would go crazy watching him play. I want Jameis Winston to have a starting job, though. That's just, we need that because he's too much fun. But, one of those guys, even a Ryan Tannehill, maybe getting a veteran there, there's some logic behind it. But, yeah, that's kind of what I do is I go out and I might even get the Kirk, usually I'm a hater in the Kirk Cousins contract situation, but given the Steelers' weird position, I actually don't think it's an awful idea. Although, again, probably not what I would do. I think Jacoby Brissett would be my pick. So I gave Gardner Minshew to the Raiders. I'll give Jacoby Brissett to the Steelers. That's kind of how I view all of this. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.